Hello, and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. This is what the abortion industry does not want you to know, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I'm so glad that y'all joined me again today, and I really look forward to our podcast today with our very special guest, and I'll introduce her in a little while. But before I do, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Dr. Stephen Hotze, with the Hotze Health and Wellness Center out of Katy, Texas. And I'm telling you, if you want to stay healthy, and not get sick, then he's the man to talk to. He's the man to visit, and I highly recommend it. I've been a client of his for many years, and I follow his health routine, and I haven't been sick in a long time. So I'm hoping and praying that that continues on. And anyway, I encourage you to look him up. And now I'd like to introduce my awesome co host that we just haven't seen each other in a while, Mary Browning. Please come on in.
Thank you, Molly. So good to see you again. And we do want to mention to our viewers and our listeners today that our topic is about abortion. And you might find yourself having an emotional reaction to some of the conversation. And if you do, we'd like you to consider that an invitation into another deeper level of healing. We'd invite you to call the H3 helpline, 866-721-7881, or log on to operationoutcry.org and see the health and healing resources available through either one of those sources. Thank you. Thank you, Molly.
Well, thank you, Mary. And we have a great guest. She's been on with us before, and I'm so glad she's taken time out of her busy schedule to join us again. And that's Dr. Abby Johnson. So, Dr. Johnson, jump on in here and say hello.
Good to be with you guys once again. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. And so, Abby, what are you currently doing now? And before we get into our deeper discussion, but just kind of reintroduce yourself to our listeners and let us know what you're doing at the moment.
Sure. So I worked at Planned Parenthood for 8 years of my life, and I have had two abortions myself as well. And left Planned Parenthood a long time ago, actually. Left Planned Parenthood in 2009. So 15 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long.
I know.
And I have 8 children, and I live in Texas with my husband. And I currently run 2 organizations, pro-life organizations. One is called And Then There Were None, and we help get abortion clinic workers out of the abortion industry, including abortion doctors, and we help bring them into a saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And then the second one that I started is an organization called Loveline, and Loveline is a case management group. So we provide case management for women who are pregnant or within 1 year of delivery. And so, it's not, we try to find a resource for women who are in need of help. And if we can't find the resource, then we become the resource.
Wow.
So, it's not just kind of the traditional, um, like wipes and diapers and that sort of material stuff. That's easy to find, but this is like licensed therapy. If they need a car, we'll buy them a car. Whatever it is they need. We've even hired immigration attorneys for women because they were, that was the reason they were going to have an abortion. They were, scared. And so whatever it is, I mean, our question to women when they contact us is, why do you feel like you need to have an abortion? And whatever that answer is, if it's within the realm of possibility for us to solve that, then we will do it. Our abortion rate is incredibly low. It's less than 3%.
Awesome.
So whatever we're doing with the help of God, it's working. And it's really just an honor to work with, 2 groups of people who are working inside the industry and, sort of that supply side of abortion, and then also working with the demand side
Wow.
of abortion. And so we're just working on both ends.
Oh, that's awesome, Abby. I love that. And let me ask you a question. So, what is the most common reason, I guess, your callers would say would be the reason that they would want to have an abortion?
So, Molly, it's interesting because we have been doing this for so long, like you two. Um, it's been interesting because I'm sure as you have seen, like it's changed. Um, it used to be that, if you ask women, why do you want to have an abortion? It used to kind of be, well, finances, or I don't have enough support, or I need to pay my rent, or something like that. So it was like, well, if I can't even, afford my utility bill, how am I going to afford a baby? That was kind of what we had previously heard. But I have to say, over the past 2 to 3 years, we're hearing something different.
Hmm.
And I would say it's completely in line with scripture. Um, that women's hearts are growing colder to their children. Um, and that's really what we're kind of seeing too when, with our hotline, a lot of women are calling and they're just literally saying, I just don't want a kid.
Wow.
I just don't want to be a mom. I don't want a child interfering in my space. I don't want a child interfering in my life.
Wow.
And that, of course, that's a much harder problem to tackle, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Um, and that really is, those are actually the cases I like to be involved. I like to be involved in, because, you know, I'm not great at I'm not really the one that's good at, like, tracking down all the resources and all the help, but, I like to give some truth to women,
Yeah. Do the
just
one-on-one. Yeah.
yeah, like, I like to do that, and so, it's interesting. I mean, if I talk to them and I'm like, "Okay, so, were you aware that when you were having sex, like, pregnancy was a possibility?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, no, I was aware." And I'm like, "So, you were just out there making these decisions that you knew about, and now that consequence is taking place, and now you're going to sacrifice the life of someone else for
Mhm.
you." And I'm like, "That does that sound selfish? Like, does that sound
Ooh,
like
that's
Yeah.
good.
something a selfish person would do?" And they're like, "Well, yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it does sound selfish." And I'm like, "Yeah, so is that, like, who you are? You're just
Yeah.
like a selfish that's who you are?" Um,
And they'll say
and
no.
and they'll be like, "Well, I mean, I didn't think I was," and we're just having to have very real, honest, just kinda laying it down conversations with these women who are just saying, um, "A baby just doesn't fit into my life right now." And, we're just having to have very straightforward conversations. These women, they don't want, like, the butterflies and rainbows, like,
Right.
fluffy conversations.
Mhm.
Right.
They want someone who's just gonna be real
Yeah.
and honest and blunt, and, some people would say, "Well, Abby, that doesn't seem very compassionate," but I have to tell you,
Truth
um
is compassionate, even though it's hard.
yeah, and I tell people all the time, like, "I'm not going to love you into hell,
Yeah.
Mhm.
um, but I will offend you into heaven."
Yeah.
So, I don't wanna offend you just for the sake of offense.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But, sometimes the truth does feel offensive,
Yeah.
in the beginning. But I think the most compassionate thing we can do for women is to tell them the truth,
Absolutely.
Yes.
and to help them take responsibility, and to help them be accountable
Right.
for their actions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Abby. You're talking my language there. You
Yes.
are. You know, it is. We have to get down to it and be so honest. And like I said, truth can be hard,
Yeah.
but like you said, and I love it. I'd rather, what was it? Love you into,
I don't want to love you into hell.
Yeah, I don't want to
But
love you
yeah.
into hell. Like, give in to your false beliefs and things like that. That's amazing. I love that. And I guess that kind of want to leads me into, it's the propaganda that the abortion industry's been putting out there for decades, but you hear it more and more often. My body, my choice, my body, my choice. And so I think that just indoctrinates this younger generation into thinking that babies are disposable,
Mhm.
and they did detach from their humanity, from their femininity, from their womanhood when they become pregnant or even thinking about children. So, and that's just part of, to me, is the fruit of this propaganda that's been going on. And so, speaking of the abortion industry, it's a hot topic right now about defunding big abortion. And we know Planned Parenthood is the big abortion provider in the country. And so my question to you is, what is your insight into the funding of Planned Parenthood, and where does that money go? How is it spent?
So yeah, it's a good question. I think there has been kind of a lot of, I would say, misinformation, or maybe it's just wishful thinking on the part of pro-lifers. Um, there's been kind of a lot of reports saying, oh, Planned Parenthood has been defunded. Um, but that is absolutely not true. Planned Parenthood is still receiving funding each and every day from American taxpayers. So um, now the Hyde Amendment, so the legislation that says federal funds can't be used for abortion, that has been reinstated, but we are still paying Planned Parenthood with our federal tax dollars over $700 million a year. And I think one of the things that people don't really understand is that um, people are so people think that abortion funding is that it like is only for, or they think family planning money is only for family planning, but it's not. So it's not like there's this kind of separate account over here, and then there's this separate account over here. And Planned Parenthood is so good at keeping records so that this money doesn't go into this account and this money doesn't go into this account. Like, that doesn't happen. So all of the money that they get from the government and all the money that people are paying for abortions, it all just goes into one account. And then they are really good at committing Medicaid fraud, which is something that we did in our facility, which I'm sure is still going on, because nobody in the Medicaid office actually holds Planned Parenthood accountable, and that's true of any m- Medicaid system. That's true of any Medicaid provider. Nobody from Medicaid is actually going into Planned Parenthood or going into any Medicaid provider, flipping through their books to make sure that Medicaid is paying for the services that Medicaid should be paying for. Nobody's doing that. Traditional Medicaid is just like an endless waterfall of money
Wow.
from our tax dollars.
Mm.
So what happens is a woman will go in for an abortion, and even though the actual abortion itself is not covered by Medicaid, they will bill an ultrasound, they will bill the office visit, they will bill the RH testing, they will bill the hemoglobin, they will bill, everything else that Medicaid would cover but should not cover because it is being done in the process of an abortion, so it's fraudulent.
Wow.
But Planned Parenthood or these other abortion providers who are contracted as Medicaid providers, they will bill that to the government, and the government has no idea that it's in conjunction with an abortion, so they just pay it. And that's literally happening in places, like, all around the country,
Mm.
because they don't nobody's holding them to account.
And
Like nobody's holding them
they
accountable.
probably charge above and beyond what should be charged. Is that a proper assumption? Like for their services, that they charge cash should be a little different unless than they would charge for Medicaid.
Yeah, well, Medicaid a lot of times they will pay um sometimes they pay more than what a cash price, but a lot of times like an abortion would be like a bundled fee, right? So if I go in, I'm a cash patient and I'm just going to pay $450 for an abortion, right? But if I separate all of those fees
Mhm.
and I'm charging now separately for an ultrasound, for an RH test, for a blood pressure check. Now, all of a sudden, my abortion, what I'm billing to Medicaid is now like $1,500,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Plus, they've already gotten the $450 for the patient. So they're actually like
Mm-hmm.
double dipping. So they've
Mhm.
gotten cash from the patient, but then they found out this patient is a Medicaid patient. So now they're billing all these other services. They've unbundled the abortion. Now they're billing all these other services to Medicaid, which also, so now they're doing two illegal things because now they're taking money. You're not supposed to take cash money from a
Mhm.
patient if they're a Medicaid patient,
Medicaid. Mhm.
but they're taking the cash and they're billing to Medicaid. And that's
Wow.
happening all the time. It's happening every day
Wow.
at Planned Parenthood clinics, and nobody's regulating it.
Wow.
Nobody is making sure that this is not happening. So that is happening. And then as far as the defunding goes, traditional Medicaid is definitely the harder. That's a Title 19 program. Title 19 is definitely the hardest title program to defund because it's written into the federal budget.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely the hardest to defund. There are three other larger pools of money: Title 10, Title 20, and Title 5. If President Trump wanted to defund those programs, he could do it today.
Oh, wow.
He defunded Title 10 during his first term. He just did it with a stroke of a pen, and that money was no longer eligible to go to Planned Parenthood and other abortion providers. And he could do that again with all three of those programs. Those are restricted cash grant programs. They only receive so much money, and once the money's out, they don't get any more until the new budget cycle re-ups. So President Trump could at any point in time just sign on the dotted line and take any abortion provider out of those programs. He has not done that.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't know why the hesitancy. I don't know why President Trump is, siding with Joe Biden policies on the chemical abortion pill.
Mhm.
No.
Um,
And I think it's just lack of knowledge, really. He just doesn't know. Like, I didn't know what you were just speaking about. And I was wondering how many legislators know this, and about the different types of title funding and the fraud that
Mhm.
Planned Parenthood is committing. And we know it's not just Planned Parenthood, but that's who we're speaking about today because it's the largest abortion provider. But for me, I'm just thinking it's lack of knowledge. And how do we get that information to them?
yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to people who are, working with the president about this. I have tried so hard to get a group of former abortion workers who are also, women who have had abortions. About 70% of abortion workers have had abortions themselves. That's one of the reasons they went to go work in the abortion industry. Um, and so, we have tried really, really hard to get, that group of people in front of the president. But
Hasn't
it
happened
just
yet. Well,
it
we're
just
going to
hasn't
pray.
happened, so we're praying for
Yeah,
it.
praying that
I
door
think,
opens.
as you ladies know, like, we know how powerful personal testimonies are,
Yeah.
and, I think he needs to hear
Mhm.
from women who have seen these things, who have participated, who have witnessed. Um, abortions, even people like Melissa Oden and Claire Caldwell who've survived abortions, I think that, you know, for him, abortion is it's something you can fundraise on. And I think it's a political
Mhm.
talking point. I don't point. I don't think it's real to him. I think it's something that's kind of like in the abstract, you know?
And I think
But
he might have influence from, his wife as well,
sure.
because I
And we
read
know
her
she's
book,
pro-choice
you
now.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so I'm kind of wondering about her history as well because of that.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
it definitely yes, there is power in testimony and just praying that that door would open. So
yeah,
because
I
I
just
know his heart would change. Go ahead, Mary.
I was just thinking, I just noticed that Monday, the Trump administration came out along with the Biden administration and maintained the position of opposing the restrictions on chemical abortion in the case out of Texas that went up to, the chemical abortion pill case that went up to the U.S. Supreme Court and back down to Texas, and 3 states, Missouri, Kansas, and Idaho, have intervened in that case. And it just came out on Monday that the Trump administration is standing by the is standing by. I'm sorry, and there's some feedback. Maybe it's coming from me. Is standing by the Biden administration policies. And
mhm,
so I just want to
Yeah.
underscore. I hear what you're saying, Abby and Molly, and there's got to be some sort of way to bring this to an end, and having our government continue to fund and promote these
Yeah.
horrible atrocities, really,
mhm.
especially with the new, you may be aware of the new study that came out just, was it last week, where
Yes.
Yeah,
when the FDA approved the chemical abortion pill case, they were saying 0.5% of women had severe adverse reactions. And the
mhm,
truth of it now is with 870, I think it's 865,000 women from insurance, 10%. So the percentage is 22% higher. 10.5% of women have adverse events, significant adverse events. And so it's really important to get the word out. And we're glad
Yes.
that you are.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, and so, talking about um, the funding for big abortion, and of course, Planned Parenthood always kind of, their mantra is that abortion is women's health. We provide women's health services. Can you just kind of enlighten our audience again? What services really does Planned Parenthood provide? I mean, what kind of women's health services do they provide?
yeah, absolutely. So Planned Parenthood, I can say, um, 20 years ago, I would say women's healthcare was something that, they did care about it. They were trying to provide pap smears and things like that. We even had, when I worked there, I remember we had, um, a couple times a year, we had free pap smear day. So
Mhm.
women could come in and, get a free, cancer screening. And that it was something that they were at least trying to prioritize. Now that started to change the longer that I worked there. Um, but now they're not even pretending like they care about it. Now they're just very outright with it that they are an abortion provider. They actually have said in various social media feeds that providing abortion is as important as providing cancer screenings to them.
Mm, yeah.
So they're not really at all in the business or trying to be in the business of providing women's health care. And we see that when we look at their annual reports. So these are the numbers that Planned Parenthood puts out themselves on their annual report. So this isn't like Abby Johnson reporting.
Right.
This is Planned Parenthood reporting. And when you look at their actual reports, you see that in the past 15 years, their uh, well woman exams, which includes their pap smear, their birth control services, their STD testing and treatment, all of the so-called family planning or women's healthcare services have decreased by almost 80%.
Wow.
The only thing at Planned Parenthood that has consistently increased over the past 15 years has been abortion and federal funding.
Mm.
That's it. Everything else, year after year, has continued to decrease. And so that tells you where their priorities lie. Even now, they are opening abortion only facilities.
Mm.
So they have now about a dozen facilities that they opened specifically for abortion only. They don't even do birth control visits there. They don't do STD visits there. They only do abortion 6 days a week, about 60 hours a week. It is
Wow.
abortion from 7 a.m. in the morning until 4 p.m. in the
Wow.
afternoon. So that tells you where their priorities are.
Absolutely. And it's horrifying, and it's something that our listeners need to know, and our listeners need to educate everyone else. It's not a women's healthcare provider,
Right.
at all. And they
It's not,
don't.
and there are no services at Planned Parenthood, like family planning services at Planned Parenthood that you can't get from any other healthcare facility.
Right.
So, they're not doing mammograms. They're not doing all this advanced breast health stuff. They're not doing anything like that. You can go to any county health department. You can go to any OBGYN. You can go to any federally qualified health center, any community health center. They are providing the most low-level, basic health care for men and women. There is nothing fancy about what they are doing at Planned Parenthood. You can
Right.
go to any nurse practitioner, any doctor, anywhere, and get the services that Planned Parenthood is providing outside of abortion.
Plus more. Plus more. Yeah.
Plus so much more. I mean,
You'll get
federally qualified
maternal
health
health
centers.
care. You'll get
Yes,
OB-GYN care. You'll get
I
all of
took
that.
one of our clients to a federally qualified health center. She got all of her health care done. Plus, she got her glasses. She got dental care. She was able to get a counseling appointment. I mean, she got all of her prescriptions filled at the FQHC. Planned Parenthood provides nothing like that. So, I mean, you can get so much more comprehensive healthcare at so many other places. And there is nowhere in this country where a Planned Parenthood is located and there is not an alternative provider. So
Absolutely.
that myth that like Planned Parenthood is the only place you can go, that is a complete and utter lie.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, and we're running out of time, and there's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. And it's about your movie, how it's coming along, and then about the Celebrate Life conference.
Sure. Yeah. So Unthinkable has been, I feel like it has been a labor of love and frustration. But we're on the path. We are trying to wrap things up. We do feel confident that it will be out this winter, like early winter. So yes, it has been just it has tested my prayer life. I can tell you that.
Probably
But
could
it's
use
going to
more
be
prayer
so
on that,
good.
huh?
And just the spiritual warfare that has been
Mm.
circling around this film tells me that it's going to be something just phenomenal. The enemy does not want this film out. So it's been great. And then the Celebrate Life conference is happening in June, the last weekend of June. And it's a time where we come and we celebrate the Dobbs decision. And we also look forward to the battles ahead. And we say, how can we work together? How can we partner together? It's a conference of unification where we're looking to other organizations and saying, how can we unite with you? How can we work with you? We work better when we are not siloed in all of our little groups. And that's really what the conference is about. That's why we started it, because we wanted to look to other organizations and say, how can we lift you up? How can we work together? If you're working on something, how can we help get it off the ground?
Amen.
That's really what it's about. And it's a great networking opportunity. People come from all around the world
Awesome.
to come together and celebrate life and to say, you're not alone. A lot of times you're in this battle and you feel like you're the only one doing it. And but there you have people from all around the world saying, hey, we're in this together, we're doing it together. And it's really amazing. It's very healing. It's a very healing time for the activist.
Oh, wow.
We're there to fight, to remind ourselves of why we're doing it, but also to heal our own hearts and to get ready for the battle ahead.
Oh, that
How would
sounds amazing.
people find out about that or
Right.
go if they're interested, Abby?
Yeah, so they can go to celebratelifeweekend.com and they can purchase tickets, find out about, there's a bunch of events that take place that weekend. So there's a conference, we have an activism rally, we have a gala Friday night. Riley Gaines is coming to speak. It's always a fun time. You get to get dressed up and be fancy. So we have a lot of stuff going on. There's a student leadership conference going on that weekend too. There's all kinds of stuff going on. So we have a dance party one night. So there's a lot of stuff going on. It's for the whole family. There's stuff for, if you want to make a vacation of it, that you can do that too. Plus it's in DC. So it's a great place to take your kids and explore history. So.
Oh, wonderful. So that's my question. Where's it going to be? It's going to be in DC. Awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds wonderful. Well, I'm going to definitely check it out for this year. So great. Well, is there anything else you would like our audience to know before we close? It goes by so fast.
I know. Well, if anybody wants to find out about the ministries I run or my podcast or books or anything else, they can go to, or even resources for, pregnancy, or if you've had an abortion, whatever. I know y'all have the helpline on there, which is great. They can go to my website. It's abbyj.com, and they can get all the information there.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Abby, for joining us. The time just flew by. There's so much more I'd love to talk about, but hopefully we'll have you back on again sometime. And thank you, Mary. Is there anything you want to say before we sign off?
No, I would just say watch for Unthinkable
Yes.
at the end of this year and sign up for Celebrate Life weekend in DC. June, the dates are June.
I think it's 26th to the 28th.
Okay, 26th through 28th. Very good. Yes, thank you. Thank you,
Well,
Molly.
thank you. And thank y'all
Thanks,
for
Abby.
tuning in to More to the Story with Molly White. And we look forward to seeing you again next time. God bless. Bye-bye. Okay.